So, this log is going to be a series of questions I asked myself this morning. And the first question I thought I will share with you and take you along how my thoughts went. Stay with me if you're feeling interested, okay? So, the first question: have you ever stopped to consider that some of your deepest beliefs about yourself may not actually be true? I'm not calling you a liar, but just curious. Like, someone told you that you weren't enough, you're too much, you're too loud, too quiet, too emotional, too ambitious, not attractive enough, not capable enough. And maybe nobody even said it directly. Maybe you learned it along the way. One rejection, embarrassment, failure, a loss. And somehow that moment became a belief about yourself, and that belief became your truth. Now, here's the question I can't stop thinking about in relation to the first question. Where do these truths come from? Or where do these beliefs come from? Because as kids, we don't judge. At least if you watch other children, you'll notice that they don't even care about whom they are playing with. The looks, the shoes, or the status, or the accents, or the language. Just put two children in a playground who don't even speak the same language and watch them. Somehow they will find a way to become friends. So, where are these filters coming from? We experience something, someone said something felt different, and we drew a conclusion out of it. And eventually we forgot that it was a conclusion we drew ourselves and started calling it our reality. Which now leads me to the third question. What happens when these created realities become our truth or our filter through which we see the world? Because once we accept a belief, we start seeing and experiencing the world through it, right? So if I believe people can't be trusted, I'll notice evidence that supports it. If I believe I'm not enough, I'll find evidence for that. If I believe success belongs to other people, I'll notice that too. And the belief becomes the lens, and the lens becomes our world, and eventually we stop asking, is this true? Because familiarity starts feeling like the truth. And here is where judgment enters. Not our judgment of others, but our judgment of ourselves, which is the next question I want to answer. Given the filters that we carry or we create for ourselves, why do other people's judgments hurt so much? I don't think it hurts because somebody has an opinion. People always have opinions about everything under the sun, right? But I think it hurts when somebody else's judgment collides with a belief we already carry about ourselves. So if I secretly believe I'm not enough, criticism feels like proof. And if I secretly believe I'm unworthy, rejection feels like confirmation. Not because it's true, but because that's familiar. And the moment we realize this, something shifts. We stop asking, what do they think of me? And start asking, why does their opinion have so much power over me? Because the real issue isn't their judgment. The story inside me that welcomes it is the problem. Now that leads me to the next question. Why do we spend so much of our lives performing for other people's judgments, trying to prove, impress, convince, be understood, trying to fit inside someone else's frame of who we should be? People see what they want to see. A person convinced you're selfish will find evidence. A person convinced you are kind will find evidence for that. And a person convinced you are difficult will continue to believe in that. We all do it. Which means that no amount of performance guarantees understanding. If the audience isn't willing to see it, the performance is just wasted. And perhaps that's why chasing approval is such an exhausting game, because the finish line just keeps moving. And this leads me to the final question. What happens if I spend all that energy on my own growth instead? Because I can spend a lifetime defending who I am, or I can spend a lifetime becoming who I want to be. Only one of those actually changes my life. And I think that's where compassion enters. Not compassion for others, but compassion for ourselves. The ability to make a mistake and say, it's okay, I can do a little better. The ability to feel inadequate and say, it's okay, I will get better. Because maybe the true measure of compassion isn't how kind I am to somebody else. Maybe it's about how many times in a day I can replace self-judgment with self-understanding. Not to avoid responsibility or be lazy, but to make growth possible. Because shame rarely helps us become better. Compassion often does. So the wisdom is not eliminating judgment. We will anyways judge. We are human. We will interpret, we will compare, we'll create stories. And the question is whether we remember that many of those stories are learned, not discovered. And if they were learned, maybe they can also be questioned, right? And that's the question worth asking you today. Which belief about yourself have you repeated so often that you've stopped questioning whether it is true? And if it isn't, who might you become without that belief?